Welcome, dear listeners. As you settle in, take a deep breath and close your eyes. Let the quiet night embrace you as we journey into a magical forest with Lyra, a young fairy drawn to a mysterious song. Follow her steps as she ascends a misty staircase and enters a meadow bathed in moonlight. With each step, she discovers secrets hidden in the stars and the earth. Let the gentle whispers of this story guide you into peaceful sleep where dreams await. In a quiet forest, hushed under the watchful gaze of towering trees, a song drifted through the mist. Faint, yet alluring, it floated on the breeze like a whisper too delicate for mortal ears. Only one creature noticed, the young fairy Lyra, who had always been drawn to sounds others could not hear. Tonight, this melody had an urgency she could not ignore. Beneath the darkened canopy, Lyra followed the tune as it wove through the trees, growing clearer with each step. Her wings, glistening in the moonlight, brushed past branches as she glided deeper into the heart of the forest. Soon, she found herself in a small glade, bathed in silvery moonlight, where the song swelled into a shimmering chorus. There, in the center of the glade, a spiraling staircase of mist had formed, rising toward the heavens. Each step was translucent, hovering as if born of clouds themselves, and they shimmered faintly with a glow that seemed to come from nowhere. Lyra hesitated at the base of the staircase, feeling her heart flutter. This was no ordinary place, nor was it an ordinary night. The air buzzed with magic, as if the forest itself held its breath. A gentle gust of wind nudged her forward, and Lyra knew that the melody was calling only to her. She took a cautious step onto the first stair, and immediately a soft warmth enveloped her. Each step up felt like shedding a piece of the familiar world below. The trees faded into shadows. The night sounds dulled, and all that remained was the melody, carrying her higher and higher. The ascent seemed endless, and yet it was over in a moment. One instant, she was surrounded by starlit sky. The next, she found herself standing in a meadow that stretched beyond sight, drifting gently upon a bed of clouds. The meadow was unlike any she had seen. The grass was silver in the moonlight, each blade shimmering as though dusted with stardust. Flowers in every imaginable hue bloomed in clusters, their petals glowing faintly, pulsing with an inner light that mirrored the rhythm of Lyra's heartbeat. Above, the sky was vast and still, dotted with stars that seemed closer than she had ever known them to be. Clouds drifted lazily around the edges of the meadow, as if cradling it within their soft embrace. Lyra wandered through the field, her eyes wide with wonder. The meadow was filled with a quiet energy, an anticipation that hummed beneath her feet. She felt as though she were walking in a place both ancient and timeless, a realm that had existed long before her and would continue to exist long after she had gone. At the heart of the meadow stood a single tree, a tall, graceful birch whose leaves shimmered with a faint luminescence. It was from here that the melody emanated, a song that flowed through the branches, echoed off each leaf, and resonated in the petals of every flower. Lyra felt an urge to reach out, to touch the tree, as if in doing so she might understand the secret it held. The moment her hand brushed the trunk, a soft voice, neither male nor female, whispered into her mind. "Welcome, Lyra of the forest. You have answered the call." Lyra gasped, pulling her hand back, but the voice continued, gentle and patient. "This meadow, drifting through the clouds, holds the stories of many worlds. Each month, it opens its paths to one who seeks and who listens. This night, it has chosen you." The words filled her with wonder and trepidation. She glanced around at the meadow, understanding now that it was more than it seemed. "Why have I been chosen?" she whispered, though she knew not who or what she was asking. "Because you hear the quiet voices, the songs lost to most," the voice replied, growing fainter yet somehow deeper, as though it came from the roots of the earth itself. "Return each month, Lyra. Each world we reveal will be yours to explore. But know that each journey holds a lesson, if you are willing to listen." With that, the voice faded, leaving Lyra alone in the meadow. She knelt beside a nearby flower, a delicate bloom with pale blue petals that seemed to shimmer with the light of the stars above. Carefully she plucked it, feeling a warm pulse emanate from its stem, as though it held a heartbeat of its own. This, she knew instinctively, was her first token, a gift from the meadow, and a reminder of her promise to return. As she made her way back to the misty staircase, the melody faded, replaced by a profound silence that was somehow fuller than any sound. She stepped back down to the forest, where dawn's first light was stretching across the sky. The meadow was gone, but she felt its presence in her heart, like a secret yet to be told. And so, Lyra returned to her world, clutching the blue flower to her chest, her mind alight with questions, and her heart set with the certainty that the meadow and all it would reveal had now become a part of her life forever. As the moon waxed and waned, Lyra awaited her return to the meadow with a growing sense of anticipation. The nights had taken on a sharper chill, and whispers filled the forest. Faint murmurs of a strange place glimpsed by few. On the night of her promised return, Lyra felt that familiar tug at her heart, like a gentle thread pulling her toward the unknown. This time she did not hesitate as she ascended the mist-laden staircase, her eyes fixed on the clouds above. The meadow awaited her, but tonight it had transformed. Gone was the serene landscape of softly glowing flowers. In its place stretched a realm cast in shades of white and blue, a crystalline world draped in frost. Snowflakes floated through the air, suspended as if frozen mid-fall. They sparkled like stars caught between breaths, suspended in a quiet that blanketed the meadow with an almost sacred stillness. Lyra took a step forward, and the snow beneath her feet let out the faintest of sighs, as though releasing a secret it had held for eons. She shivered, not from the cold, but from the strange energy that seemed to permeate the air. Every tree, every blade of frozen grass glistened under an invisible light, casting subtle hues of indigo and silver across the expanse. In the heart of this wintry landscape, Lyra saw shapes forming in the frost. A procession of creatures crafted from ice, each figure more graceful than the last. They moved with a gentle fluidity, as though gliding on an unseen breeze. She watched as they approached, ethereal beings with eyes that gleamed like shards of ice, their forms shifting and refracting the light with every step. One of them, a tall figure with the semblance of an ancient stag, approached her, its eyes wise and penetrating. It lowered its head in acknowledgement, its antlers delicate and glistening with a dusting of frost. As it came near, Lyra sensed a deep history within its gaze, a story that went beyond words. "Welcome, Lyra." The creature's voice was a whisper that seemed to echo through her very being. "You have come to witness the meadow's first secret. This is the land of eternal winter, a place where time stands still and memories linger in the frost." Lyra's breath misted in the cold air, but she nodded, spellbound by the creature's presence. "Why am I here?" she asked, her voice barely louder than a breath. The stag inclined its head toward a path that seemed to materialize from the snow, a trail leading deeper into the meadow, lined with icy trees whose branches hung heavy with crystals that chittered like wind chimes. Each winter, this world holds the memories of those who have journeyed here. Walk the path, and you shall see. With careful steps, Lyra followed the path, the stillness around her deepening with each stride. Soon, figures began to appear alongside her, spectral shapes preserved within the frozen branches, glimpses of travelers from centuries past, their faces etched in expressions of wonder, sorrow, joy, and longing. Each face flickered, as though frozen between moments, preserved forever within a meadow's eternal winter. She stopped beside a figure, a young man with eyes closed, his hand outstretched as if reaching for something just beyond his grasp. The frost had preserved his image so clearly that Lyra could almost imagine him breathing. Instinctively, she placed her hand over his, feeling a faint warmth pulse beneath the ice, a connection that bridged time and memory. A voice, gentle and melancholic, filled her mind. "I came seeking solace, but I found only the reflection of my own heart," it whispered. Lyra withdrew her hand, feeling a pang of sorrow and understanding. The winter's frost was not simply a chill. It was a mirror that reflected the desires and regrets of all who ventured here. Continuing down the path, she reached the end of the trail, where a single snowflake larger than any other hovered in midair, suspended by unseen magic. It glowed with an inner light, a delicate spark that held a warmth in stark contrast to the frozen world around it. Lyra extended her hand, and as she touched the snowflake, it melted into a small crystal that pulsed with gentle warmth. The stag appeared beside her once more, its gaze solemn. "This is the first token of the meadow," it said softly. "A memory preserved, a promise whispered through the ages. You may carry it with you, but remember that it is both a gift and a reminder to embrace each moment, for time is fleeting, even in a world that seems eternal." As Lyra looked at the crystal, it glowed with a subtle blue light, a fragment of winter's essence captured within its depths. She held it close to her heart, feeling the weight of its significance, though its true meaning remained elusive. When she returned down the staircase that night, the chill of the eternal winter lingered on her skin, but her heart was warmed by the memory of the frost and the frozen soul she had seen. She clutched the crystal close, a token of the meadow's first secret, knowing that with each visit, she was drawing closer to its mysteries. As the next month dawned, Lyra counted the nights until she could return to the meadow. She felt a sense of growing mystery, as if each visit peeled away a layer of enchantment hidden deep within the clouds. On the appointed night, the moon was full, casting a soft silvery glow across the forest. Lyra made her way to the glade where the misty staircase waited, spiraling upward into the stars. The meadow greeted her with a new transformation. Gone were the frost and glistening branches of the eternal winter. Instead, Lyra found herself in a vast field of sunflowers, each towering far above her, their golden petals stretching high toward the sky. The sunflowers seemed to sway in a silent rhythm, their movements both graceful and haunting, as though dancing to a song only they could hear. Lyra wandered among them, feeling small, yet comforted, as if wrapped in the warm embrace of an ancient sun. As she explored, she noticed the air was alive with whispers, carried by a warm, gentle breeze that brushed her cheeks. The breeze seemed to speak in voices, soft murmuring voices that shared secrets of long-forgotten summers. She closed her eyes, letting the breeze play with her hair, and listened. "Once, we were the watchers of the dawn," the voices whispered, carrying tales of sunrises and golden mornings, stories of days that seemed endless, filled with laughter and joy. Lyra opened her eyes and gazed up at the sunflower faces, each one tilted slightly, as if listening to the sun's secrets, even in the darkness of night. Here, within the meadow's ever-changing worlds, night and day blurred, and time lost its meaning. As she continued through the field, Lyra noticed a figure moving among the sunflowers. a tall, graceful being with skin the color of molten gold and eyes like deep amber pools. The figure turned, and Lyra saw that it wore a crown made of sunflower petals, their golden edges glowing with an inner light. "Welcome, Lyra," the figure said, its voice like the murmur of wind through summer fields. "This is the land of endless sunlight, a place where memories of warmth and light are kept safe, even in the darkest nights." Lyra felt a warmth spread through her, as if the sun itself had embraced her heart. She looked up at the figure, eyes wide with awe. "I am honored to be here," she whispered, her voice soft as a sunbeam. The golden being extended a slender hand, and from it, a small petal drifted downward, catching the light as it descended. Each petal carries the memory of a day long past, a whisper of sunlight preserved. Take it, and let it remind you that light lingers even in shadows. Lyra reached out, and as her fingers brushed the petal, she felt a rush of warmth, a fleeting glimpse of sun-drenched days and laughter-filled afternoons. The petal pulsed gently in her palm, a living memory of sunlight captured in its delicate form. She closed her hand around it, feeling the softness of its edges, and knew that it, like the crystal of winter, was a token of the meadow's gift. A reminder of warmth in a world where light and darkness intertwined. The golden figure walked with her along the field, and as they moved, the sunflowers turned, following them as if in homage. Each world within the meadow is a fragment of a greater whole, the figure said, its voice low and steady. These are not merely lands, but reflections of moments cherished, preserved for those willing to remember. Lyra nodded, understanding on some deep, instinctual level that the meadow was not just a place, but a realm of memories, a tapestry woven from fragments of worlds that once were. She looked at the petal again, its golden glow illuminating her hand, and felt a surge of gratitude for the meadow's gifts. As she prepared to leave, the figure placed a gentle hand on her shoulder, its touch warm and grounding. "Remember this, Lyra. Light and warmth endure, even when they seem lost. This petal is a promise that the sun shall always rise, even when shadows fall." With those words, the figure stepped back, fading among the swaying sunflowers. Lyra felt a pang of longing, but the petal in her hand anchored her, filling her with a quiet resolve. She made her way back to the staircase, feeling as though she carried a piece of the sun within her. When she descended to the forest, the petal still glowed faintly in her palm, illuminating her path like a tiny ember in the darkness. And though she had left the meadow for another month, its warmth lingered with her, a memory of golden days that would guide her through the chill of night. The days stretched into weeks, and as each night grew darker with the waning moon, Lyra held close the gifts the meadow had given her. The blue crystal from the eternal winter and the golden petal from the land of endless sunlight lay beside her each evening, their subtle glows a comfort as she waited for the next call. She sensed, however, that something had shifted. The meadow was not merely offering worlds to explore. It was guiding her toward an understanding yet beyond her reach. On the night of her next journey, Lyra made her way to the glade with a new feeling in her heart. It was as though an invisible thread connected her to the meadow, binding her not only to its mysteries, but also to the stories she was meant to carry. But when she arrived, the staircase was not there. Instead, a soft voice filled the clearing, more familiar than any other sound. It was the voice of the meadow itself, echoing through the mist like a song remembered in dreams. "Tonight, Lyra, you shall not ascend," the voice said gently, with an undercurrent of ancient wisdom. "For each journey you take into the meadow reveals more than the worlds within. It reveals the truths you carry in your heart." Lyra knelt in the glade, her wings folding as she listened. She felt a twinge of longing to visit another realm, to hold another piece of the meadow's secret. But the meadow's voice continued, kind but firm. "Before you seek further, you must look within. These tokens, these treasures you have gathered, they are not only gifts, but teachings. Look to them and understand what they ask of you." Lyra opened her palm, staring down at the crystal and the petal, both radiant in the moonlight. She remembered the frozen figures preserved in the eternal winter and the warm whispers of the land of endless sunlight. Each a lesson spoken in silent beauty. She had collected these tokens with reverence, but she had not asked herself what they truly meant. Gently, she touched the blue crystal, feeling the faint cold seep into her skin. The memory of the frost-filled world came rushing back to her. The stillness, the sorrow, the fragments of lives held within the ice. She recalled the stag's words. "Embrace each moment, for time is fleeting, even in a world that seems eternal." She realized that this crystal was more than a piece of winter. It was a reminder of life's impermanence, of the beauty found even in stillness and loss. She understood now that it was a lesson in compassion and reverence, an invitation to cherish every fleeting moment. She shifted her gaze to the golden petal, the warmth of sunlight still pulsing faintly within its fragile form. The petal whispered of joy, resilience, and the promise that light endures even through darkness. She remembered the figure's words. Light and warmth endure, even when they seem lost. This was more than a petal. It was a promise, a reminder of hope in shadows, a vow to bring light to those who needed it most. As the meaning settled within her, Lyra's heart filled with a quiet revelation. These tokens were not meant to be kept for herself. They were treasures meant to be shared, gifts to bring comfort to others. She had been gathering pieces of the meadow, not to hold close, but to offer them as blessings to those who might be wandering in cold or shadow. the meadow's voice returned, softer now, yet resonating with a profound warmth. The meadow has given you these tokens not as keepsakes, but as seeds to sow. The true gift is not in the possession, but in the giving. With this understanding, Lyra felt an ache in her heart shift to a gentle resolve. She saw clearly now what the meadow had asked of her, to become a bearer of its light, a guardian of the worlds hidden in the clouds. And as she rose, her wings brushed the air, filled with a new purpose that glowed brighter than any moonlight. The voice of the meadow faded, but Lyra could feel its presence still, woven into her very spirit. She gazed up at the sky, knowing that each token she carried was not just a gift, but a responsibility, a call to offer warmth in a world often chilled by sorrow, to remind others of hope even in the darkest nights. With newfound resolve, she closed her hand around the tokens, knowing she would use them as symbols of the love and light she had gathered from the meadow. She would share them, weaving the meadow's mysteries into her own world, carrying its hidden lessons to those who, like her, needed a reminder that they were never alone. And as she left the glade that night, she knew her next visit would be different, for she had finally understood the meadow's hidden lesson. On the final night, Lyra returned to the glade with her heart both heavy and light. She knew this visit would be different, that it held the weight of farewell as well as the mystery of discovery. The moon shone brightly, casting silvery light across the forest, illuminating the mist-laden staircase that awaited her. She climbed, her steps sure and filled with purpose, the tokens warm in her hand as she rose through the clouds one last time. The meadow stretched before her, yet it had transformed into something beyond any world she had witnessed. It was a realm of pure silvery light, as though every memory, every fragment of her journey had woven itself into a seamless tapestry. The familiar flowers, the towering trees, and even the floating clouds shimmered with a translucent glow, casting gentle reflections like glimpses into unseen depths. Lyra felt as if she were walking within a dream. At the heart of the meadow, where each journey had begun, a figure stood waiting. But this figure was unlike any she had met before. It held no shape, no clear form. Instead, it appeared as a figure made of light, shifting and dancing with colors that ebbed and flowed like water. As Lyra approached, the figure's light grew softer, enveloping her in a warmth that felt both unfamiliar and intimately known. Lyra. The figure's voice was a melody that resonated within her very bones. You have learned the secrets of each world and carried them with grace. You have held the crystal of winter's wisdom, the petal of summer's promise, and the understanding of the meadow's lesson. Lyra gazed up at the figure, her eyes wide with reverence and gratitude. Thank you for guiding me, for allowing me to see these worlds. she whispered. Her voice, though soft, was filled with a depth of emotion she could barely contain. The figure extended a hand, and from within its light, a small, radiant stone appeared. It shimmered with colors that shifted like the phases of the moon, hues that carried the memory of each world she had visited. This stone, the figure said, is a gift from the meadow, the final token. It holds the love and light you have gathered from your journeys, but it is also a reflection of what you carry within: compassion, hope, and courage. It is a mirror of your heart, Lyra. Lyra took the stone into her hands, feeling its gentle pulse as though it were a living thing. It was warm, filled with memories of each realm she had wandered through, and she understood that it was a symbol of her own journey, a path filled with both discovery and transformation. The figure's light softened, its form growing fainter. The meadow drifts beyond the clouds, Lyra, to realms yet unseen, but you carry its legacy, for the worlds you have glimpsed are now part of you. You are its final guardian, the one chosen to share its secrets. A gentle sadness filled her heart as she realized this was goodbye. She looked around at the meadow, its beauty more profound and mysterious than ever. But she knew that its magic would live on within her, and within the stone that now rested in her hand. As the figure began to fade, the meadow shifted, its light growing soft and diffuse, until it was nothing more than a mist that filled the air. Lyra stood alone in the clearing, yet she felt no loneliness. The meadow had left her, but it had also given her something eternal, a purpose, a promise, and a bond that reached beyond sight. With the stone cradled in her palm, she made her way back down the misty staircase, feeling as though the sky itself were bidding her farewell. When her feet touched the ground of the forest glade, the staircase vanished, dissolving into the dawn mist. The meadow was gone, and yet it was closer to her heart than ever. As the first light of morning painted the world in gentle hues, Lyra held the stone to her chest, feeling its warmth spread through her. She understood that the meadow's magic, its mysteries, and its memories were hers to carry, to share, to pass on to those who sought light in shadowed places. And so, Lyra became a quiet keeper of the meadow's secrets. She wandered the forest, sharing her tokens of wisdom and warmth with those who needed them most. And though she would never again step into that meadow, she knew that its light would live on in her stories, in her gifts, and in the hearts of those who believed in the worlds beyond the clouds.